After a decade-long romance with my childhood sweetheart, we finally tied the knot. Yet on our wedding night, she took her own life, leaving behind a suicide note filled with words of love for another man. Her heartfelt confession to him read, "Felix, if there's a next life, I swear I won't fail you. As for me, Christian, what skillful deception you fooled me for 10 whole years." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day I fell in love at first sight with my childhood sweetheart. In my previous life, I was cornered by a group of thugs when she happened to pass by and saved me. But this time she turned a blind eye and ran toward someone else. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw several high school boys in uniforms approaching me, iron rods in hand. "Christian, did you deliver that love letter, our boss ISNT, exactly the patient type?" The familiar scene before me instantly made me realize I had been reborn, returned to my high school days. Just last night, I was sorting through Abigail's belongings. Abigail was my childhood sweetheart. 10 years, our childhood friendship had finally blossomed into marriage. But she committed suicide on the wedding night, leaving only a suicide note. Now that I've been reborn, heaven has given me a second chance. I'll cherish it and prevent her death. Abigail was the school belle and also my neighbor. We went to school together almost every day, inseparable. Many people asked me to deliver love letters to her, but I refused them all. This included Felix S. Felix was the school's notorious troublemaker, leading a gang of delinquents with their slovenly demeanor, doing nothing productive, let alone studying. Even if Abigail liked him too, the two couldn't be together. One was the beautiful top student, the school's belle, while the other was a good-for-nothing slacker, by no means a match. I secretly tore up Felix's love letter, but his gang found out after school. They cornered me in this alley ready to teach me a lesson. Before I could say more, they pinned me to the ground and kicked me viciously, one blow after another. I curled up without uttering a word of protest, because in 2 minutes Abigail would appear. In my past life, it was Abigail who saved me from that moment on. I fell completely for her, beginning a decade-long, unrequited love. My gaze remained fixed on the alley as entrance. Finally, Abigail appeared, young, vibrant, pure-hearted, and kind. She would never stand by and watch someone suffer. Yet Abigail remained motionless, silhouetted against the light. She stood quietly at the mouth of the alley, watching me get beaten. I reached out a hand to her, hoping she would see me. "Abigail, I'm here, save me." Abigail turned a deaf ear, merely watching with eyes so cold they no longer seemed like hers. After a while, another figure appeared beside Abigail. Felix gently wrapped his arm around her, and the two stood sweetly entwined at the mouth of the alley, while I was on the verge of passing out from the pain. The violent beating ended, and I struggled to rise. Battered and bruised, Abigail had long since left. Why didn't Abigail save me in this life? Where exactly did things go wrong? Following the route from memory, I limped my way home. Abigail hadn't returned yet, so I sat waiting at the neighborhood entrance. As dusk approached, the roar of a motorcycle engine sounded. A sleek motorcycle stopped at the front gate, and Abigail stepped off the back seat wearing a soft pink dress. Abigail removed her pink helmet, smiling as she bid Felix farewell. Under the setting sun, their figures resembled an immortal couple. "Abigail, you heard that just now, didn't you?" Abigail nodded. I then murmured softly, "But why didn't you save me?" Abigail looked at me, her eyes filled with tranquility, and spoke as calmly as still water. "Because this is what you deserve, Christian. Don't you know what you've done? If you hadn't torn up Felix's love letter, how could we have missed 10 years together?" So Abigail had also been reborn. I was wrong to tear up the letter first, but Felix was never worthy of Abigail. Was it wrong for me to keep them apart? Was it wrong to not want the person I loved to be with him? Suddenly, I remembered on our wedding day in my past life, I accidentally saw a social media post about Felix dying in a car accident. When our classmates discussed in the group chat, they inadvertently mentioned that intercepted love letter. Abigail took her own life because Felix had died because of that belated love letter. And I was the one who tore up that letter. I was the true culprit behind Abigail's suicide. Still lost in memories of my past life, Abigail spoke again, her eyes filled with a fierceness I had never seen before. "Christian, in this life, he and I miss each other again. You'd better watch yourself. Don't come bothering us anymore. Otherwise, beatings like the one just now will happen many more times." Staring at the completely transformed Abigail before me, I felt an overwhelming sense of unfamiliarity. "Abigail, did you ever truly love me?" "Never. I'll forget everything from our past life and start anew with him." Abigail and Felix naturally ended up together. Rumor had it that Felix had turned over a new leaf for her, creating a love story that became the talk of the town. But their happiness lasted only a few days before they began skipping classes together, vanishing from school entirely. We were reborn in our senior year of high school, with just 1 year left before the college entrance exams. Yet Abigail spent all her time rekindling her romance with Felix, and her grades plummeted, dropping beyond the top 200 in the monthly exams. Both parents and teachers tried talking to her, but she ignored them all, diving headfirst into this passionate love affair. I couldn't bear to watch the girl I loved for 10 years fall into ruin. I found her at a pool hall, clinging to Felix, their lips locked in an inseparable kiss. I stood there silently watching a bitter ache rising in my heart. The girl I spent 10 years finally winning over. It turned out she was averse to intimacy, only that I wasn't the right one for her. Yet I still hoped she would pull back from the brink to at least wait until after the college entrance exams before being willful. Felix gave me a disdainful look and ostentatiously pulled Abigail into his arms. Hey, honor student, this isn't the place for you. I didn't care what Felix said. I just wanted to wake Abigail up. Abigail, come back. Can't you at least wait until after the exams to have fun? But she remained as cold to me as ever, telling me not to meddle in her business. Abigail was very confident, because in her previous life, she had been the top scorer in the city's college entrance exam, attended a prestigious 985 university, and later landed a job at a major company. She said that even if she crammed right before the exam, she would still be the top scorer. After all, she had been reborn once. How could she possibly fear something as trivial as the college entrance exam? Losing the girl I loved was painful, but I couldn't stop blaming myself. If it hadn't been for my selfishness, if I had prevented things from the start, Abigail wouldn't have fallen into corruption or been bewitched by Felix. Everyone in class was rooting for the two of them. After all, youth comes only once, and they wanted to make it passionate and unforgettable. Abigail's smile never faded from her face, and as I looked at the person I had pursued for 10 years, she now seemed to be happy too. What right did I have to interfere? There had always been a gap between Abigail and me in my previous life. I had given 200 effort just to barely get into the same university as her. If I didn't work hard in this life, what awaited me was the unknown. But as someone who had already gone through the college entrance exams, once I knew all too well that one wrong step could lead to a chain of mistakes, I still spent hours studying every day. The knowledge from high school had long been forgotten, and picking it up again now was proving somewhat difficult. I left for school at 6 in the morning and studied there until 10 at night before returning home, completely missing Abigail's schedule. The next time I saw her was already 2 months later. Abigail's mother had fainted at home, hitting her head on the floor. I happened to pass by and discover her when there was a single person in her house. I immediately called 120 and rushed Abigail's mother to the hospital. Outside the operating room, I called Abigail repeatedly, but she didn't answer a single one. Finally, as if annoyed, she hung up directly and blocked my number. After some thought, I went to the places where Felix and his crew often hung out to look for her. Sure enough, Abigail was there too. But she had completely transformed, dressed like a rebellious girl, her once smooth straight hair now permed into big waves, wearing makeup that didn't suit her age. Abigail, your mom just fell and was hospitalized. She's in surgery right now. Abigail remained silent. So Felix spoke for her. Our Abigail can stay wherever she pleases. It's none of your business. Besides that old hag, good riddance if she is dead. I stared at Felix in shock. How could he say such things about Abigail's mother? And Abigail just stood there indifferently. Abigail, when did she become so heartless? That is your mother we're talking about. Don't you even care about her? Abigail used to be known as the perfect, obedient daughter, the model of filial piety. How could she have turned out like this? Stealing my heart, I stepped forward and grabbed Abigail's hand, pulling her toward the exit. I couldn't let her continue down this path of self-destruction. Even if she didn't like me, I couldn't stand by and watch her ruin her future. Slap. Abigail gave me a sharp backhanded slap across the face. I covered the stinging spot, staring at her in disbelief. Christian, stop pretending to be kind. I told you my affairs are none of your concern anymore. And as for my mother, don't you know she disowned me long ago? She kicked me out 2 months ago. Only Felix truly loves me. He is the one who has taken me in all these days. After saying this, Abigail walked back to Felix's side, gazing at him with a tenderness in her eyes I had never seen before. Felix's earring glinted dazzlingly in the sunlight, his tattoos and buzz cut making him look impossibly cool. Too bad I didn't have that kind of courage. Bother my girlfriend again, and you'll have me to deal with. Felix's lackeys shoved me out before I could clarify things about Abigail and her mother. Burning with unanswered questions, I returned to the hospital. Abigail's mother had already undergone surgery and hadn't woken up yet. I stayed by the hospital bed, took out a workbook from my bag, and started working on it, but I couldn't write anything, and all my mind kept thinking about Abigail. Abigail came from a single-parent family. Her mother raised her alone, and over the years, Abigail's mother endured many hardships. Abigail had been sensible since childhood and never gave her mother any trouble. Why is it that in this second chance at life, Abigail has instead become rebellious? It wasn't until evening that Abigail's mother woke up, her aged face completely drained of color. The corners of her eyes, etched with wrinkles. These years of solitary toil had aged her quickly. People do grow old fast under such burdens. She reached out with a pair of withered hands to grasp mine, tears glistening in her eyes. Christian, I truly thank you. At my age, I'm so fortunate to have you. I quickly adjusted the hospital bed to raise Abigail's mother slightly, allowing her to lie back more comfortably. Seeing Abigail's mother in this state filled me with complex emotions. Here was a mother enduring the torment of illness, while her daughter was out rebelling, caught up in some passionate romance. You're the sensible one, that Abigail girl. I don't know what has gotten in her lately, always running off somewhere. Her grades keep slipping day by day. I raised her all by myself through hardship and toil. Now, with the college entrance exams approaching, what's to become of Abigail if she keeps this up? My fate is truly bitter. This daughter was my only hope for a better life. But now how am I supposed to go on living like this? Turns out 2 months ago, Abigail had a huge fight with her mother and ran away from home. She occasionally returned, but each visit sparked fresh arguments, so she simply stopped coming back. The Abigail before me now is utterly unfamiliar. As she spoke, Abigail's mother wept bitterly, her aged face streaked with tears. Christian, you've always been close with Abigail. Could you please talk some sense into her? For me, she'll surely listen to you. I smiled self-deprecatingly. How could she possibly listen to me? How many times had I gone to see her only to be met with cold disdain every single time? But I agreed, verbally telling Abigail's mother that Abigail was just under too much stress lately and needed some time to adjust. She still didn't know about Abigail's relationship. Abigail's mother seemed to see me as a savior, gripping my hands excitedly. In my past life, whenever anyone mentioned Abigail, they would always bring up Christian alongside her. Abigail was the top student in our grade, smart and beautiful. While I ranked second, being neighbors, we often appeared together in people's conversations, praised by everyone as childhood sweethearts. But now, when people mention Abigail, the person by her side has become someone else. While I buried myself in studying, grinding through one set of problems after another, I occasionally overheard classmates talking about this divine couple. They said Felix adored Abigail so much that he tattooed her name over his heart. The pair wore matching outfits everywhere, flaunting their love, and wandered through every street and alley, yet never once appeared in the classroom. They said Abigail went street racing for Felix and ended up injured, limping around. Wherever Abigail wanted to go, Felix would carry her on his back. Their happiness and sweetness knew no bounds. In this life, I was nothing more than a stranger to Abigail. Abigail skipped classes so often that her grades kept slipping, bringing her closer to Felix's level. Meanwhile, I, the eternal second-place finisher in my past life, finally claimed the throne as the top-ranked student in our grade. The homeroom teacher spoke to me with a beaming smile. Christian, as long as you maintain your current grades and perform steadily in the college entrance exam, securing this year's top score Title I T be a problem. But when mentioning Abigail, he couldn't stop sighing. It was like someone standing atop a divine altar, suddenly falling into an abyss. Countless people lamented the fall, yet the person herself remained immersed in it, indulging without thought of returning. As the college entrance exam drew nearer, day by day, Abigail occasionally appeared at school to collect all her textbooks. No one could persuade her otherwise. She was like a stubborn beast that had crawled into a cage named Felix and could never find her way out again. The class atmosphere grew tense and heavy as everyone busied themselves with their own revision plans. No one praised their so-called perfect love anymore. Those acquainted with Abigail would occasionally come to me, hoping I could persuade her to return, but what could I possibly do? Carrying the hopes of everyone, especially Abigail's mother, I want to see Abigail one last time. This time, it wasn't one of those entertainment venues, but a small apartment they had rented themselves. After finding out their address, I knocked on the door. The person who opened the door was Abigail, wearing a simple white tank top. The moment she saw it was me, her face instantly fell. What are you doing here again, Christian? I never realized you were such a busybody, meddling in everything. My gaze involuntarily drifted toward the interior of the room, crowded, cramped, and messy. My idealized image of Abigail shattered completely. In my mind, she had always been a clean, sweet-smelling, and soft girl, but her current state seemed to completely blend in with the mess that filled the room. Only 3 months left until the college entrance exams go back. The study atmosphere is better at school, and there is still time to review. As I spoke, another man's voice came from inside the room. Felix, who is it? Abigail turned her head and answered loudly toward the room, a junk collector. I clenched my fists, swallowing the pain in my heart, and met Abigail's gaze again, speaking calmly. This is the last time, Abigail, go back. Yet she let out a mocking laugh, as if hearing some ridiculous joke. Christian, don't think, just because we've both been reborn, that you can control me. Let me tell you, you're the least qualified to do so. If you hadn't clung to me for 10 years, I wouldn't have agreed to marry you out of pity. The truth is, I never liked you. Next time you try to control me, take a good look at yourself in the mirror first. Listening to Abigail's words, a term surfaced in my mind: simp. So in Abigail's eyes, I've always been a simp, a backup option. In my past life, I chased after Abigail for 10 years. To me, she was always a goddess-like figure, keeping me at arm's length. I thought it was just her nature. Turns out she simply looked down on me. I decided to let go of my savior complex and respect others' destinies. All right, I wish you happiness. Goodbye. With it, I turned and walked away. Without looking back from now on, I would sever all ties with Abigail, completely never again concerning myself with anything related to her. Let bridges be bridges and roads be roads from this moment on. We're strangers. Whether she lives or dies has nothing to do with me. No more playing the fool. In love, not even a dog would take that role. During the last 3 months of the college entrance exams, I studied like crazy. I'm actually an extremely ambitious person, knowing what would happen in the future. Given a second chance, I would plan carefully for myself and ensure my parents lived a happy life. The day before the exam, I saw Abigail at her doorstep. For once, she wasn't arguing with her mother. But I didn't pay much attention, just glanced at her briefly before returning home. Her place was right across from mine, so running into her was unavoidable. As I closed the door, I thought I heard her softly say, "Good luck on your exams." Save those words for herself. I'll definitely give it my all, even go all out, because this is the first major step I need to take in my life. Right now, I'm brimming with confidence, burning with fighting spirit, and overflowing with enthusiasm for next year as college entrance exam. I'm determined to succeed. When the college entrance exam officially ended, a heavy weight lifted from my heart. The test papers were exactly the same as in my previous life. But I'm only about 80 confident the remaining 20 hinges on Abigail. I'm not sure if she still remembers the exam papers from her past life. On the day the results were announced, I got what I wished for. My score was a full 60 points higher than in my previous life, securing me admission to a top-tier 985 university once again. But this time I chose a different school. Given this second chance, I was ready for a fresh start, no longer dwelling on the past, but looking forward to a new future. When I heard Abigail's score, I was utterly shocked. She had only scored a little over 300. It was the exact same exam, yet she had only managed 300 points, far below what I knew she was capable of, but she had already gone off the grid. Even I, living right across the hall, couldn't reach her. The only way to get any news about her was still through the class group chat. After the exams, the class group chat became lively again, with everyone gossiping, and inevitably Abigail became a topic of conversation. Most importantly, it was said that she and Felix had broken up, and Felix quickly moved on to someone new, a girl who looked like a troublemaker, the kind who couldn't even get into a second-tier college. Someone started chatting anonymously in the class group, freely voicing their opinions across the void of the internet. But since the person involved was present, they only dared to speak up anonymously. Abigail, what a shame. If only she hadn't gotten into that relationship back then. Yeah, look how successful Christian is now, the top scorer in the entire city, bringing glory to the school. Back then, I thought childhood friends couldn't compete with new encounters, but now it seems the childhood friend came out on top. What a pity, what a pity. Felix is genuinely handsome, but he is also genuinely trash, a real player who moves on without missing a beat. Abigail, Felix, and I are all in the group chat, but not a single one of us has spoken up. I don't care, and it doesn't bother me. But those two, they probably haven't even opened the chat. During the holiday, I use my free time to dabble in self-media. In the future, self-media and big data will be explosively popular industries, with traffic soaring and endless opportunities. In just one holiday break, I made a decent amount of money and even breezed through getting my driver's license. The most important thing is to save up first, then invest in property. Coming from the future, I naturally know which neighborhoods will be the most valuable. In this second life, I focused solely on making money while Abigail got entangled in a romance, her golden years wasted on that love letter. I wonder if she ever regretted it. During college, I met some beautiful and compatible girls, dated them, but none of the relationships lasted long. I always felt that each of them carried a shadow of Abigail. I kept betting on whether Abigail would regret it, whether she'd come back to me, but she never did. Though I claimed I'd never care about Abigail again, my ears would still perk up whenever news about her came my way. After graduation, our class group chat grew silent as everyone moved on with their lives. But one day, someone posted a photo in the chat. "Abigail, is this you? I just ran into someone who looked like you, but I could barely recognize them. Damn, is this really Abigail? She looks completely different." The Abigail I remember was the picture of an innocent campus belle. Truth be told, I was just like them. Had it been me, I wouldn't have recognized her either. I'd never seen this version of Abigail before. She seemed to be living poorly, yet also appeared quite happy. In her previous life, Abigail was elegant, intellectual, gentle, and generous. All these wonderful words could describe her. But now her style was bold and carefree. Wide-leg cargo pants, small dreadlocks, and a sleeveless tank top. Actually, it's kind of cool. Ugh, why am I thinking about her again? I shook my head, trying to rid myself of all thoughts related to Abigail. After she said such harsh things to me, how could I possibly forgive her? Absolutely not. It must be because my life is too comfortable now, and I'm just looking for trouble again. Abigail took a path none of us expected. She pursued art school, but with something like painting passion alone, ISNT, enough you need talent. Abigail took the entrance exams year after year, attempt after attempt, until she finally gave up. She didn't go to college, nor did she retake the exams. Instead, she packed her bags and headed south. Rumor has it she went to Dolly opened a guest house by Erie Lake and never returned to her old home. As for Felix, he continued being a local troublemaker in their hometown, got married within a few years to a young girl, a shotgun wedding. During New Year's, Abigail wouldn't come home, either her mother all alone and in poor health, but reluctant to spend money on medicine, was often invited by my parents out of pity. She even had reunion dinner at our house for the holidays. Christian, do you have any news about Abigail? Annie's phone is broken, and I can't reach her no matter what. I took the phone and realized Abigail had blocked her mother too, every single contact method. I told her all the news I'd gathered about Abigail, though she was just past 50, around the same age as my mother. My mom still looked youthful and energetic, while Abigail's mother had long since grayed. Since Abigail left, she seemed to have aged 20 years. Upon hearing that Abigail was in Dolly, tears welled up in her mother's eyes. As long as she's alive and happy, this old woman can die in peace without regrets. She began wailing again. Oh, why is my fate so bitter? I only had this one daughter in my lifetime, and even she turned out ruined. After all the effort I put into raising her, now that she has grown and her wings have hardened, she won't even come home once. What is she if not an ungrateful wretch? Not only Abigail's mother thought so, but all of us believe that the current Abigail was an ungrateful wretch. Her rebellious phase had long passed, yet she remained this way. It was until my senior year of college when my parents called to tell me Abigail's mother had passed away. I booked a flight home that same night, which led me to see Abigail again. But she was no longer the Abigail I once knew. At the funeral, Abigail wore traditional mourning clothes of rough hemp paired with her light purple dyed hair, creating an utterly absurd sight. Dressed in black, I approached her side, wanting to remind her to at least dye her hair back to a natural color, if not for herself, then for what others might think. But as I approached, I noticed her face was visibly grief-stricken, yet somehow different. Her sorrow seemed tinged with a hint of coldness. Christian, you've come long time no see. I was momentarily stunned. Yes, Abigail, it's been a while. The funeral lasted 7 days in total before Abigail's mother was cremated and laid to rest. Throughout that time, Abigail never slept a wink. Kneeling before the memorial altar day and night, she would collapse only to rise again and continue kneeling. Everyone attending the funeral understood the reason behind this. Abigail's mother didn't die of natural causes. She was literally angered to death by Abigail. That night, Abigail's mother finally managed to reach her, but they ended up quarreling during the call. No one knows what exactly was said between them. But Abigail's mother suffered a fatal heart attack. That very night, her body lay cold for 3 full days before Abigail finally returned home. Those who came to pay their respects all pointed fingers at Abigail, whispering disapproving comments. What an unfilial daughter. Her mother raised her alone with such difficulty, and now she's been angered to death by her own child. What a tragedy. Her mother fought tooth and nail to keep her back. Then who'd have thought she'd raise such an ungrateful wretch? They say raise sons to safeguard your old age, but after all these years of raising her, has she ever shown a shred of filial piety? And that hair of hers, all those garish colors, like some kind of monster, neither fish nor fowl. Abigail knelt quietly before the mourning hall, her frail frame so delicate it seemed a breeze might scatter her. Each accusatory word from the bystanders pierced her like a sharp sword, and I could almost see the bloody wounds gaping across her body. On the day of the burial and tombstone erection, Abigail kowtowed heavily before the gravestone, her forehead breaking and bleeding, yet no one could stop her. After most people had left, Abigail seemed to finally release her burden, wailing loudly before the tombstone, her cries filled with grief and sorrow. Mom, I'm sorry. All these years you raised me alone. I know how hard it was for you, and everything you did was for me. But I wasn't a good daughter. In the next life, have another daughter. I was unfilial. Just as I was about to turn and leave, Abigail called out to me that day. I kept vigil by the gravestone with Abigail for a long time, listening as she poured out her heart. It seemed she wept out all the guilt she felt toward her mother. Abigail, my condolences. My heart was a tumult of emotions, whether pity or mockery. Perhaps both. Wasn't this all her own doing, given a second chance at life? If she had truly cherished and seized it, would things have ended up like this? Life is unpredictable, fleeting. Not everyone gets the chance to be reborn and start anew. I drove Abigail back to her home, where she began packing up old belongings. Everything in the house had already changed beyond recognition. Though she'd only been gone a few days, all traces of human presence had vanished, leaving only layers of dust covering the floors. After staying with Abigail for a while, I began feeling increasingly uneasy, leaving behind the words, "The dead can't return." Abigail, you need to move on. After all, not everyone gets a second chance at life. I quickly made my exit. That night, Abigail knocked on my door again. She said she wanted to go somewhere and asked if I could drive her. I found myself inexplicably agreeing. The place Abigail wanted to go was by the seaside, to be precise. It was a lake. There were only inland lakes here, no real sea. The night was beautiful tonight, with moonlight gently spilling onto the lake's surface, creating a shimmering, dazzling sight that was truly pleasing to the eye. In my past life, I would have been overjoyed to have such a chance to be alone with Abigail. But now everything had changed. Christian, do you know who I hated the most in my past life? I thought for a moment and answered her self-deprecatingly, ISNT at me. I tore up your love letter and made you Miss Felix. Abigail smiled. In our past life, you always said you liked me, but I kept wondering, did you truly like me, or did you only love that perfect girl everyone praised? Christian, have you ever realized that you've always been doing things that moved only yourself? You kept saying you'd like me for 10 years, but did you truly know what I wanted? How much did you really understand about me? By now, we've known each other for over 20 years. At this point, Abigail gave me a sly smile. I listened in silence, but a storm was raging in my heart. Every word she spoke struck directly at its core. I know you're the only one who is truly good to me, but I just can't lie to myself. I still can't bring myself to like you. 10 years is enough. You're the perfect friend, but not the right lover. You're all being so kind to me, but I don't deserve it and I don't want it either. Abigail seemed to have unburdened herself, pouring out everything from past lies to the present. Seeing my astonished expression, she couldn't help but laugh, just like the vivacious girl she used to be. I finally understood why Abigail, who had been reborn, had completely transformed into a different person. She stood by the railing at the lake's edge in the wind, like a free bird. Abigail, forced by her mother to grow up too soon and oppressed for too long, had developed a pathological mentality. She yearned too much for freedom, yet the constraints of society kept squeezing her, with everyone pushing her forward. Born into a single-parent family, she grew up deprived of paternal love, yet under her mother's suffocating maternal care, she had no choice but to be sensible, to excel academically, and to achieve fame and success. Yet no one ever asked if she herself was willing. So in this life, she let herself go completely. She never wanted to live in the first place. That's why she chose suicide, but fate played a cruel joke on her, granting her rebirth instead. She wanted to walk a different path from her past life. This time, she wanted to be herself. Abigail loved her mother, but she also hated her. After returning, I was completely stunned by Abigail's words. It turned out that Abigail had always been the one who saw things most clearly. She was consciously sinking into ruin. And I was also blinded for 10 years before finally realizing that perhaps what each of us liked was the praised Abigail, not the real Abigail. I even deceived myself, loving her deeply for 10 years, when in truth, I was nothing to her. The next day, Abigail committed suicide by slitting her wrists exactly as she had in her previous life. When I arrived, all I saw was blood covering the floor, the entire bathtub filled with bloody water that had overflowed onto the tiles. Abigail lay pale and still in the tub, a satisfied smile lingering at the corners of her lips. And in my phone, I still kept the last message she had sent me. Christian, I'm truly sorry to trouble you once more. I hope my grave can be by the sea, preferably as far away from her as possible. I don't want to be reborn again. Thank you, wishing you well. Abigail's side story. Since childhood, my mother was strict with me, demanding I be first in everything. Even when making friends, I had to choose the top performing student. In kindergarten, when I didn't receive the teacher's little red flower reward, I came home to bamboo, cane strikes on my palms, the pain so severe I couldn't even hold a pencil steady. In elementary school, scoring only 90 in math meant going without dinner, doing math problems on an empty stomach, with each wrong answer earning another strike to the palms. In middle and high school, if I didn't rank first in my grade, one was allowed to go to the art studio, my only hobby, my sole recreational activity. Every time my ranking dropped, I'd be locked in confinement again. That tiny balcony at home became my personal detention cell. Before I could say more, they pinned me to the ground and kicked me repeatedly with all their might. I curled up in silence, not uttering a word of protest, because in 2 minutes Abigail would appear. A moment too late, and the call would come through. She would even monitor my WeChat step count to track my daily activities. The most vivid memory I have is from when I was 10, forced to recite a poem, Wang Bo's preface to the Pavilion of Princeton. It was classical poetry meant for middle and high school students. If she demanded I memorize it then and there, with so many obscure characters I couldn't remember it. No matter how hard I tried, I was locked on the balcony all day from morning till night. The wind was strong that day. I wore just a thin little vest and stood on the balcony all day. No matter how I called to her or how I cried, she ignored me. She only said coldly, "When you've memorized it, then you can come out." After that day, I had a high fever for 3 full days before I recovered. But once I got better, she started a new round of torment. Eventually, I learned my lesson. Whatever she said, I obeyed without daring to slack off or act willful. I did everything exactly as she told me, because she would say, "Abigail, you're all I have. I raised you alone. It wasn't easy. So you have to be outstanding. You have to become extraordinary. That's the only way you can repay me." Mother placed all her hopes on me, but they were too heavy. Those expectations weighed on my shoulders until I couldn't bear them, until I couldn't move forward. "Abigail, everything I've done is for you. Your father passed away years ago, and if it weren't for you, I would have gone with him long ago. Abigail, you are my life. You must make me proud, understand." This belief had seeped into my bones. Whenever I made a mistake, I felt like a sinner unworthy of living in this world. My mother loved me so much. How could I not obey her? Everyone only wanted what was best for me. I couldn't be ungrateful. The mask of obedience and sensibility, once worn too long, can never be taken off again. After I started working, she could no longer interfere in my affairs, but then she began obsessing over my marriage. She arranged countless blind dates for me, each ending in failure. I never liked anyone she introduced. Finally, she saw Christian. She had always liked him best. Fine, I'll do as they wish. Since Christian likes me, I might as well marry him. Until that day, when I saw the message in the class group chat, that person named Felix, the first, suddenly remembered my utterly ordinary 3 years of high school. Turns out someone had a crush on me back. Then someone who expressed their secret admiration through love letters, even if they were torn to pieces, but I accept it all. If I could do it all over again, I want a passionate, earth-shattering love. I want to break free from all constraints to follow my heart. Just once, and no longer be controlled by my mother. And my greatest act of revenge, my only act of defiance, was my suicide. My dearest mother, I grew up exactly as you wanted, but in my next life, I want tea. The end.